Welcome to the Child Outcome Summary webinar, "'Cause We Care," focusing on the whole team process for child outcome summary ratings and how it all fits together to paint a rich picture of a child's development. So Corey's going to be advancing the slides for me because I've got this warning thing on my computer screen that I don't want you guys to get distracted by. So our next slide is about our objectives today. Corey? Yes, so our objectives include gaining an understanding of why we do the child outcome summary process, building the importance of teaming when determining ratings, and explore successful strategies to paint an accurate picture of each child's functional development, and learn how you can use the COS results to improve outcomes for children, families, you and your team's practice, and for local system planning, and then finally explore resources for families and practitioners. Thanks, Corey. So let's start with the why. Child outcomes are indicator 3 on the state performance plan and are reported to OSEP annually. They are a required results indicator and part of each state's local determination. But outcomes aren't just about accountability. They're about helping children be active and successful participants during their early years and in the future in a variety of settings, activities, and routines at home, childcare, preschools, and in the community. Thanks, Corey. An outcome is a benefit experienced as a result of services provided to children and families. Child and family outcomes are connected. A positive outcome experienced by the family serves to promote child outcomes, and outcomes achieved by the child benefit the family. But for the purpose of today, we are focusing on the 3 child outcomes, which you're all familiar with. Of course, outcome 1, positive social emotional skills. Outcome 2, acquisition and use of knowledge and skills. And outcome 3, use of appropriate behaviors to meet needs. So next, Corey, using the chat, please share your response to the following question. What are reasons to measure outcomes? Is it A, to report data outcomes to the federal government? B, learn whether outcomes are effective? C, for program improvement? And D, all of the above. Look at you guys. You're so awesome. D. Yes, absolutely. All of the above. And I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a handbreaker, and my email address will be at the last slide. But I am so passionate about child outcomes and family outcomes. I was involved from day one. Well, maybe not quite day one, but I think it was 2004, and Kyla might be on the line to jump in, but they did what they called a PART review, performance accountability results tool of all federally funded programs. And it was determined that with early intervention, there was not really a way to capture results for children and families. And that's why child and family outcomes came to be. And it's been, I feel very passionate about it again. And I'm glad that you're joining us today for this. So next slide, Corey. So states collect, analyze, and use data on the three-child outcomes to measure individual child and family progress toward improved results and to improve their systems and services. So when we talk about services, that means how can we improve results at the individual child and family level? In Virginia, at a minimum, teams determine COS ratings at entry, annually, and at exit. Many local systems also complete the process more frequently at the 6-month review, which provides additional data for program improvement and helps with exit ratings when needed. Virginia also uses data from the COS process to monitor
No.
progress
Okay.
with our SIP, or State Systemic Improvement Plan. Say that 5 times fast. But that OSIP requires each state to implement. And as part of that plan, our SIMR, the State Identified Measurable Results, is to increase the percentage of infants and toddlers who substantially increase their rate of growth in the area of positive social emotional skills, including social relationships, by the time they exit early intervention. So, Corey, so for the next slide, using the chat, please share your response to the following question. So what is the Child Outcome Summary? Is it an assessment tool, a method for determining eligibility, a synthesis of information of the child's functioning across settings and situations, or another name for the Individualized Family Service Plan, the IFSP? Let me figure out how to scroll down. Which are you guys singing here? Yes, absolutely. C, a synthesis of information of the child's functioning across settings and situations. Thank you. So our next slide is just a reminder that the COS process itself is not an assessment tool, but it's a mechanism to document rating decisions and provide evidence that supports the ratings. And in Virginia, it's also the basis of our assessment for service planning and outcome development process. So, how do we paint an accurate picture of each child's functional skills? Okay, Corey, thank you. So, the Child Outcome Summary process is designed to be a team consensus process made up of individuals with different roles who can contribute information about the child and participate collectively in a discussion to determine the child's ratings. This includes the child's family and other caregivers who know the child best. And the goal is for the team to collectively meet and discuss the child's functioning and determine a rating for each child outcome. Thanks, Corey. So in order to complete the process, the team must understand the content of the 3 child outcomes, an age expected child development, the child's functioning across settings and situations, age expectations within the family's culture, and how to use the decision tree and the 7-point rating scale. Thanks, Corey. And in Virginia, and Corey's going to drop the link, or Lorelei, thanks, Lorelei, in the chat. In Virginia, we have the Child Outcomes Booklet, Team Engagement, and the Child Outcomes Summary process. The process and supporting documents for teams determining ratings which includes caregivers, are outlined in this booklet. So while the booklet says 2018 and was last updated in 2021, the process has not changed. It's still all about team engagement. If the process outlined in the booklet is followed properly, a high measure of integrator reliability will be achieved. So let's just kind of do a quick poll, Corey. So, how often do you use the COS booklet? And this is a anonymous poll, so please be honest. Um, always, sometimes, never, and what booklet? And I appreciate your absolute honesty.
Never.
Corey, it looks like we may have a couple more coming in.
And it looks like you have 100% on my end. Are you seeing that? Can you see everybody's response?
Now, well, I'm seeing about 76%, but it looks like it's kind of dispersed again between sometimes, never, and what booklet. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes. Yes, but 100% of your participants have answered.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. And I appreciate your honesty. So there are a couple things within the booklet that I'd like to reorient you to. If you could close the poll, Corey, and move on to the next slide. So, as you know, involving families in functional assessment is more than asking questions, going over questionnaires, or developmental profiles. So, chapter 1, and I think I've got to close my screen. There it goes. Okay. Chapter 1 of the booklet defines functional assessment as a continuous collaborative process that combines observing, asking meaningful questions, listening to family stories, and analyzing individual child skills, behaviors within naturally occurring everyday routines and activities across multiple settings and situations. So that is Virginia's definition. It was developed as part of a work group with our last SIP when we were focusing on functional assessment. And at the time, it was related, I guess our SIP or SIMMER was about outcome 3. Taking appropriate action to meet needs. But that is Virginia's official definition. And so to assign an accurate rating at entry, annual, and exit, the team needs to, first of all, obtain a complete picture of the child's skills and behaviors across multiple settings and situations. They need to understand typical child development and to integrate this information across the breadth of the 3 child outcomes, which we'll talk about in a minute. So next, Corey. Everyone is familiar with the decision tree, which is on the right, which provides a consistent way for teams to rate a child's functioning relative to age expected behavior at a specific point in time. And the use of the decision tree is required with the team and family to determine each and every rating. So everyone should be using that as part of the child outcomes rating process. Chapter 2 of the booklet includes an explanation of the 7-point scale used to indicate a child's status on each of the 3 outcomes and you'll see that on the left, that explanation. I mean, and I apologize, the images are really small, but this is in the booklet. And the process involves team members using the information gathered about a child to rate his or her functioning in each of the 3 outcome areas on a 7-point scale. So using the 7-point scale, rating scale, requires the team to compare the child's skills, behaviors, and those expected for his or her age to those skills, that are, age expected. So next slide, part of an effective COS process is effective teaming, which includes engaging all members of the team, including families, when discussing a child's current level of functioning compared to same age peers. The COS team needs a complete picture of the child's functioning to decide on outcome ratings. And different members of the team, of course, contribute different information to this picture. So, for instance, practitioners are skilled at picking up on varying levels of typical and atypical patterns of development. And of course, family members know what the child does in different settings and with different people. By sharing what everyone knows about the child, each member of the team helps establish a complete picture of the child's functioning, which helps to ensure that the outcome ratings accurately reflect what the child can and cannot do. With good teaming comes good decision making. Good decision making leads to objective and accurate ratings. So it's important that everyone participating in the child outcome summary process not only has a thorough understanding of the required components of functional assessment and the 7-point rating scale, but also understands why this information is collected. So team members, including the family, must be well prepared to participate in the discussion. And the intake meeting, for instance, is the ideal opportunity to introduce families to functional assessment and the COS ratings before you develop those entry ratings, so that families are well prepared. So we have another question, Corey. So in the chat, which of the following is an important reason for COS team members to understand the content of the 3 outcomes? So A, assessment instruments are designed to measure the 3 child outcome areas. B, it's required for state licensing, credentialing. Or C, team members need to translate a child's assessment data into descriptions of the child's functioning in each outcome area. Awesome. You guys are right on. C, we need to be able to take those domain-specific isolated skills and see how children integrate them into function. So Corey, next slide, please. Okay. So within the Child Outcome Summary booklet, chapters 3, 4, and 5, if you can see them, provide strategies for preparing teams for the COS process at each point in time and is broken down into initial, annual, and exit, and includes strategies for preparing families, preparing for the assessment process, and team collaboration and family engagement in the teaming process. Thank you, Corey. So next question in the chat, true or false? The child outcomes team should use adjusted age when considering age expectations for the COS ratings for a child born prematurely. A, true, B, false. C, neither true or false. It depends on the child's age. Yes. So yes, B is the answer is B, false. So in Virginia, well, nationally, we don't adjust COS ratings, child outcome summary ratings for prematurity. We use the child's actual age compared to same age peers. In Virginia, it gets a little confusing sometimes. We do adjust for eligibility in regards to prematurity. But with the COS outcome ratings, we do not. So thank you guys. Next slide, Corey. So chapter 6 of the booklet provides guidance on special circumstances and functional assessment and the COS process, including the inclusion of the family's cultural values, beliefs, and practices. We know sometimes, that different cultures have different routines or beliefs related to feeding, sleeping, in a bed or crib, those kinds of things. So we want to include those. Those are absolutely included when we do the rating. The use of assistive technology. Prematurity is also in the booklet if you want to read up on that. Toilet training and atypical functioning. So thanks, Corey. We have another question. All of the following are ways professionals can help prepare families to participate in COS discussions, except A, explain the COS process, B, share written materials describing the process, C, review what the family can expect and give them opportunities to ask questions, and D, ask the family to come to the meeting with an idea of what they think the rating should be. So yes, this one was D, everything except asking the family. It's a team rating decision, and the family's part of that team, but it should be everyone involved in making those decisions. So next, Corey. So chapter 7 of the booklet includes a summary and the important documents that support the COS process, including supports for family and providers. This next slide that Corey's going to pull up for us are resources for the family, which includes supports, well, for the family and providers. They explain the process and the family's role within that process. Next slide. There's also a visual for families and practitioners to understand the components of functional assessment and how they're interrelated. So this is Virginia's definition up at the top that we talked about a few minutes ago, a functional assessment. And in this visual, it's broken down into each component with an overview of what it looks like in practice. For example, collaborative process is described as building and maintaining rapport and relationships among early intervention team members, including service providers and family members and caregivers. So, next slide. Okay, so we know that the 3 child outcomes cut across developmental domains and represent the integrated nature of how children develop, learn, and thrive. So, this resource on the right is the breadth of the 3 child outcomes, and it provides a framework for describing and consistently measuring children's functional skills and behaviors across settings and situations. This is a great resource to help teams understand the outcomes well enough to be able to translate information from those domain-based assessments and to functioning in the 3 child outcome areas. So, for example, under outcome 1 for personal positive social emotional skills, is interacting with peers, which reads convey awareness, respond, initiate, sustain interactions, shape, cope, resolve conflicts, play near and with peers. So before we move on, just take a minute to note what's happening in this picture to the left. Okay, Corey. So thinking about, we just talked about translating information from domain-based assessment into functioning in each of the 3 outcomes using the chat. Please share how that quick glance of domain-specific isolated skills are being integrated into functional behaviors for outcome 1. So if you could do that in chat, we could talk a little bit about it. So for instance, like the obvious is motor skills. We could see the little girls, their motor skills and how they were maintaining control, squatting, fine motor control over their body in relationship to each other in order to engage in a mutual activity to paint side by side. So those motor skills have an important role in their personal social relationships. What other things did you guys see? Nice joint attention. Yes, sensory play. Kids are using fine and gross motor skills. Absolutely. Sharing, playing near peer, regulated to attend to the task, interacting with others, joint attention. So, a couple of folks have mentioned that joint attention, which, is like a cognitive skill. When they're sustaining play with each other, we can assume for appropriate amount of time because there was pain everywhere. It's not like, this hadn't been going on for a period of time. And, their interaction, you're right, indicates that they want this, what they want during this painting activity. You see they're touching each other and working from the same piece of paper, even though there was a blank sheet there. And, let's see, sharing, playing with your peers, regulated to attend the task, interacting with others, joint attention, pair play, so you can see even in this very, very, very quick glimpse of this picture. And while it's not enough information to determine ratings, you can see how skills are integrated into function and cross the three child outcome areas, and how this rich information can be used for individualized outcome development, and how it can be used to support positive outcomes for children and families. So thank you guys for all that input. Corey? So I have a couple of quick questions about documentation, just for us to think about. Um, so which of the following is not true about COS documentation when you're thinking about your narratives? A, documentation confirms that COS ratings reflect high quality data. Documentation is only useful for team members present and participating in the COS ratings. Documentation allows an independent reviewer to understand the information that the team used to determine the rating, and documentation helps administrators how the COS process is being implemented. So what do you guys think about that one? Right. Yes. B. B's the correct answer. So when you think about documentation, your narratives should reflect A, C, and D. Families should be able to read your narrative and understand why the statement was chosen. Team members should be able to understand why the rating was determined. You know, anytime there's a provider change, the new provider should be able to pick up your narrative and have a good idea of why that rating was chosen. Next question, Corey. So, true or false? Documentation should only provide information about functioning that is at age expected level. You guys are awesome. Absolutely false. We want to be able to pick up that documentation and know what that child's currently doing, you know, functionally, and, you know, be able to tell why that rating was given, and, you know, like what the child is doing, isn't doing, and be able to, you know, answer those why questions. Next question, Corey. So documentation should include which of the following? Information from multiple sources, description of skills the child uses across everyday situations and routines, information about how the child functions relative to what is considered age expected, or all of the above. Yes, D, all of the above. We should be able to figure out what the child is doing in all different situations. Next, Corey. So now that we've reviewed the value of using the child outcome summary booklet, let's go back to the why. So we started with early intervention being about successful outcomes for children. We know early intervention builds upon best practice and provides supports and resources to assist family members and caregivers to enhance children's learning and development through everyday learning opportunities, and that it's about supporting families to achieve and close the gap in their child's developmental trajectory to be successful in activities and settings that are important to families. And we also mentioned before that child outcomes have been the focus for our last two SIPs, the Stated Systemic Improvement Plan, with the goal of enhancing child development and functional outcomes and improving family life through delivery of effective outcome-based, high-quality early intervention services. So, Corey, to achieve this and measure the effectiveness of our SIP, our SIMR, our state identified measurable result, and the COS process, data is used in important ways at many levels to support those early intervention goals, including being able to demonstrate the high quality of Virginia's early intervention program at both a statewide and national level. And, you know, if you've listened to Kyla talk during her presentations, Virginia is always recognized nationally for the work that we do and our results with children and families. So, everybody, take a minute, pat yourselves on the back for that. Also, they meet OSEP child outcomes reporting requirements related to program accountability. And practitioners can use the information from the COS process to identify the individual plan that best supports the child's learning and participation. And it provides families with information on their child's progress while in early intervention. Families can build on this information to communicate their child's strengths and needs and to support successful participation in settings with same age peers. And then states and local programs can synthesize COS data across many children to make data-informed decisions that monitor effectiveness and improve the services that we provide. So, Corey, just one other thing about data. So,
Hey, Anne, excuse me, Anne, I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry. We're getting a lot of feedback every time you move your papers.
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's very loud. So I just wanted to be
Oh,
sure, just be sure you were aware.
oh, thank you. I am so sorry, guys. So, the other thing is about data quality. Um, that's often a top concern with our child outcomes data. There are resources out there to assist teams in reviewing data quality, completeness of data, pattern checking, and more that we'll be reviewing with LSMs at regional meetings. But for providers and teams, we do have the COS fidelity checklist, which is the next slide. Corey, I think we got ahead of ourselves. Can you go back to slide 31? Back.
And you're going to have to prompt me because it doesn't show slide numbers on.
There we go, right there.
Okay.
So this is the fidelity checklist for the COS process. It's a very short checklist. It's a single page, and it's a companion document to Virginia's Child Outcome Summary booklet. It's designed to assist case managers, providers, and supervisors in improving the COS team collaboration. It highlights ways to actively engage families as vital members and can be used for self reflection, supervisor mentor observation and feedback, staff training, and to measure change over time. So let's go ahead, Corey, and and break down how systems, practices, and outcomes work together to achieve the goal of enhancing child development and functional outcomes and improving family life through delivery of effective outcome-based high-quality early intervention services. So to support local programs, the state system is responsible for critical functions such as establishing personnel requirements, planning for a fiscally sound system, providing policy and procedure guidance, and delivering technical assistance to support local programs and personnel. Local programs are responsible for the implementation of high quality, individualized services as required under IDEA. So, a high quality state system paired with the implementation of effective practices at the local level is aimed at achieving positive outcomes for young children with disabilities and their families. So, next slide. We're going to wrap up our discussion with the implementation of evidence-based practices. We just talked about what the evidence over the last 18 years of implementation of the child outcome summary process has helped, how it's helped shape best practice for obtaining a rich picture of a child's function. So let's just take a moment to pause and see where we are in Virginia with implementation of evidence-based practices. If you can use the chat, share what evidence-based practices you are aware of that we're currently using in Virginia and the ones that you are using in your daily practice. Coaching model, absolutely. The primary provider, modeling and coaching. There's relationship-based, relationships that we form, adult learning principles, coaching interaction style, teaming, developmental evidence-based practices, natural environments, of course, is one. What do we have here? Coaching, interaction style, teaming, anchoring assessments with evidence-based tools, family-centered. Yes, thank you guys. And then, of course, we have cultural awareness, which is another family-centered practice. So our next slide includes, Corey's going to drop the link in chat. So DEC released a position statement on ethical practice in May of 2022, recommending that practitioners engage in ongoing learning and reflection. So it states that professionals must be committed to being lifelong learners, continually reflecting and actively working to improve professional practices, and the recommendations include remaining current in knowledge of evidence-based practices that supports one's effectiveness within their role, identifying areas for professional growth and engaging in evidence-based professional development activities, training and feedback that supports growth in evidence-based services, and collaboration with families and practitioners to consistently reflect on one's own practices, the practices and perspectives of other professionals in the field and what they have experienced and learned from children and families. So, Corey, respecting those DEC recommendations um, for enhancing our expertise, we invite you to join us on Wednesday, March 20th from 12 to 1 for the launch of the Pyramid Model Framework in Virginia, which is going to help expand our knowledge and resources in the area of positive social emotional development. And those links came out through the EIPD webs or through their constant contact links, and is also in the Part C update. And I don't know if maybe Lorelai can quickly add a link into the chat. Sorry, Lorelai, to put you on the spot, but if you can add a link to the chat in case anybody doesn't have it. So, what kind of questions do you guys have for today as far as the child outcome summary process goes? You can feel free to unmute or put something, put it in the chat.
And Lorelai just messaged me. She's looking for the registration link, so we're working on getting that for you all. And there is a comment in chat from Jessica Hale. If you need me to read it, let me know.
So, when determining if progress is made, should we consider the statement itself or the overall skill acquisition? And I'm not sure, Jessica, if I understand. So, with progress, you want to look at whether the child, since their last rating, has gained any new skills. So even if a child was a 4 when they entered the program and there are 4 when they exit, yes, they've gained skills because they've maintained that developmental trajectory, if that makes sense. And feel free to unmute.
No, and that was great. Thank you.
Okay. And then Jennifer says, looks like there were some mixed results on prematurity. Please explain. So with prematurity, for the purpose of OSEP's child outcome summary results, we do not adjust for prematurity. We use the child's chronological age. So for the sake of eligibility determination, and then maybe that's where the confusion is. So we don't adjust for child outcome summary ratings, but for eligibility determination, we do adjust up to a certain point. Does that help explain it? Okay, and thank you guys for the feedback in the chat. And thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that answered your question. Are there any more questions? We have about 10 minutes, and I think Kyla might be on the call. Kyla, are you here? If there are other questions that maybe she can answer, but I'm not seeing her.
And I can check on that. I did see that there was a question from Lynn Wolf about nuts and Kyla says she's here. A nuts and bolts. Lorelai is actually looking. There's a very detailed, I believe, two-part talks on Tuesday about the decision tree. Kyla, jump in if I believe Kyla and Lisa Terry did that a while ago. We are looking for a link to that. Lorelai is on this. That might be helpful, but Kyla, I don't know. I'm doing this from memory. If she says it's a 2-session talks on Tuesday.
Yes.
Beth Pruitt is asking, is there any guidance or changing with neuro-affirming philosophy? Beth, feel free to unmute because I'm not sure what that means. You know what your question is specifically. Feel free to unmute.
I've just been doing lots of continuing ed recently on neuro-affirming language and neurodivergent philosophy. And I just was wondering if there are any updates on how to word things or how to approach this kind of rating with families, or that might be something in the future.
Well, and I apologize. I really don't. I'm not familiar with that. I guess I'd love to see the research on what you're talking about, but really, the child outcomes, I don't foresee them changing because really they're just overarching outcomes that we expect for all children to achieve, to be successful, across settings and situations. And there's always, you know, room in narratives to explain, what you're seeing, what your concerns are, how that child's using their behaviors to get their needs met and things. But, to be honest with you, I can't really provide any more guidance than that, except please send me the information.
And
Kylie?
there's a question from Bailey. How would you talk through the decision tree when a child is significantly delayed in all areas of development? How to focus on the positives when all ratings will be a 1?
Yeah, those are really tough conversations to have with families. They really are. And, but to be, in all honesty, I mean, we owe it to families to be honest, and not to, I mean, we don't want to be negative, and we want to talk about the great things that the child is doing, whether they're making eye contact with with a family member to get their needs met. Like if you say, do you want this or this? And they look at a specific item, you want to recognize those strengths. And it really is difficult, especially at entry, because you're just meeting that family and developing that relationship. So, but you also, I mean, we have to be honest. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but my heart does go out to you, when, to everyone when you're in those situations. And,
oops,
moving forward, no, and I was just going to say, moving forward, it's always great to recognize those small achievements, even though, it's rare, but some children, may stay a 1 throughout their course. But that mean, but they're still, or 2 or 3 or whatever, they're still making small incremental changes. And it's important, to recognize that with families, whether it's a smile, an eye gaze, a laugh, so.
And Lorelai reminded everybody in chat also that our March Talks on Tuesday with part 2 of our April Talks on Tuesday is about neurodiversity affirming practices. Again, the March and April one will be archived, but we encourage you to join us for that conversation. And I think it covers the whole gamut of early intervention services. And then Kyla says she believes she remembers there's a Talks on Tuesday webinar. It's hard to believe, you all, but we've been doing Talks on Tuesday since 2010. So remembering all the ones that we've done, but we can look and see. Kyla thinks there's one about having difficult conversations with families. We can look and see if I don't know that would be specific about the COS process, but we could definitely look for that as well.
Well, and if I remember correctly, Dana has a couple of blogs about
Yes.
having those difficult conversations. And there is on the Pyramid Model website a article that we've posted in the Part C update about those difficult conversations as well. But yeah, I mean, they're hard. They really are hard. So, and I appreciate you bringing that question up. So, are there any other questions or comments? I really appreciate having spent this time with you guys. Corey, can you go down and just put my email address up for me? And please feel free at any time to reach out to me because I love hearing from you guys. All right, if that's all, thank you so much for joining us today. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank